Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another great episode of Basscast Radio. I'm your host, Brian Carter. And as always, join with us, man, Hank the Bass Geek. My co-host is with the mostest, and Thomas with Fishing the DMV. Thomas, what is up? Welcome back, everybody. And guys, tonight, if you're watching, which I hope you are watching on YouTube, we got one of our writers with us, Mr. Carson Maddox. He writes for our newsletter. So while everybody's at ICAST having a great, wonderful time, we thought we would discuss our newsletter we just put out on Monday. Thank you all for subscribing, by the way. I think we're sitting at like 1,500, over 1,500 subscribers. Thank you for that. By the way, we just dropped our Christmas in July contest, which runs until the end of the month. If you don't own a nice set of scales, I have a set of scales in there we're giving away, plus a free jersey and plus a lot of tackle. It's about $300 worth of stuff we're giving away this month in our Christmas in July. But guys, what has been going on with all of you around the globe? We're going to go around like we always do, and then we're going to dive into our newsletter, and we're going to break it down, talk about this content that was written in the newsletter. And hopefully this will encourage you to subscribe, sign up, and become a member. We're pushing this really hard, and I'm going to push it really hard into next year. I love doing newsletters. I really do. I think it's pretty cool because it's quick. I like working on them personally. I mean, it's just something I grew up doing yearbooks, and I was an editor, and I just like that whole, I like the newsletter vibe. It doesn't have to be a big story to be in a newsletter. I mean, it can be 500 words. We're not worried about a Google algorithm in a newsletter. I mean, it's got to be over 500 words at one time just to be able to be picked up by the Google algorithm. Probably like 1,000 words now because so much content out there. But it's cool about a newsletter because, you can kind of have a little bit of more freedom in a newsletter because either they're going to subscribe because they like what you're doing or they're just going to unsubscribe. I mean, it's not like you're going to, you either boo or don't boo or move on. So, we love the newsletters, but Geek, what is happening in your world, brother?
Man, just looked at the digits and we hit 79,300 subs today. We've been popping off here lately. Dropped a couple of 20K vids. Dropping the knowledge, playing with baits. That's what I like to do. Man, that's about it. We're on that 3 video, 5 day a week format now, and this is week 3 of it. We're having fun. We dropped a really good fun fishing video. I don't even know what day it is, but we dropped it a couple days ago.
And Geek, when we hit 100,000, we're gonna crash somebody's party. I ain't mentioning Thomas's name, but we're gonna crash that party when he hits that. That 2 people away he is away from hitting his next algorithm.
There you go.
We're gonna crash the party.
But no, man, that's about it. A lot of good down imaging, side imaging, bass, bait, info in there. And then, yes, guess what? Then I stand up and there is forward-facing sonar. All you blockheads, go ahead. Let me hear it.
Guys, we could have all right, Thomas, go ahead. Because there was a video I saw dropped yesterday by Dustin Connell and another angler. And it was pretty much bashing someone we know really well. But then, I heard it was just a mix of bashing. You know what I'm saying? It was like, did anybody, I was just told the video, I did see it this morning or last night. I didn't have a chance to watch it yet, but I am planning on watching it. But Thomas,
I really wish I just sent Bass Geek the whole podcast episode I did with this guy from Texas, because maybe his channel could get it out there more, because the amount of just ignorant people that probably only have 3 teeth and really don't understand any of the data behind this is just fascinating, because the proof is in the pudding. Like, it doesn't have that big of an effect unless you are a Dustin Connell. Then it's a problem. If you are unwilling to learn it, yes, you are going to get lapped. But besides that, it's such a small, minute factor when it comes to the forward-facing sonar. If you guys don't know, I had the guy that runs Lake Fork and a lot of those big lakes, you probably have heard of it, do a 2-year study on the effects of forward-facing sonar. And I think they, if I can remember the study off the top of my head, I think 60% of the people that was interviewed for the sample didn't have scope. So over 2 years, 60% didn't even have the thing. And the people that did have scope, it was a minute adjustment it gave you on fish catches. The coolest information about that thing, though, the number one thing that would spook fish was the boat. They would put cameras in and they would watch fish, also with scope, and they would see how a boat would act when it would come near them offshore. That would be the number one thing to lock them down no matter what. Not the scope, but the boat.
And that's why people are pushing for that big wide zoom. You know what I'm saying? That big, the big cone.
Yep. It's the cone's interesting, and that kind of piggybacks into this Monday Night Live I had, which was great. I had SB Fishing and Mr. Matt McCluskey. If you don't know Matt McCluskey, you just don't know. All he does is win. He is the best. I think he's one of the top 100 live scopers in the United States of America that you don't know of. He's insanely good. He's won Angler of the Year, I think, 4 years in a row on Occoquan Reservoir, which is the best lake in Virginia, hands down. It takes an average of 5 pounds per fish to win. And he talked about the scope there. And he actually doesn't like it, even though he makes money with it, because he hates the drama, honestly, because he's such a sweet little man. But the fact is, he talked about that stuff.
With you.
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly.
I'm with him 100%.
But he also uses he'll use it in like an inch and a half of water. And he says like what he can do with it. He wins on the Potomac River in the James with scope. And he explained that, which was beautiful. But besides that, guys, it's ICAST week. We did 2 hours of live coverage yesterday. Today, I had a conference call with everyone and scoping it out. I think we're going to go live 3 to 4 hours tomorrow, now that we got kind of the path we're going to take to do it all. So everything will go back to normal next week after the craziness of ICAST.
Yeah, it's the ICAST fusion, guys. If you've seen anything really cool yourself that you like from ICAST, we'd love to get your feedback and hear what some of the items that you've seen. I'll be honest, I ain't really seen much. What I've seen, I did see the new Crush City bait that looked pretty cool. I saw someone now, guys. I ain't gonna lie, you guys. I haven't had a time to really hit social media, and I probably will over the next couple of days because, like any big events, can show up in our news feed for about a month because that's the way Facebook works. But I did see some new swim baits, and I saw some new look like electronic baits or something like that. Now, I was on Bassmaster's website, so I'll tell you guys straight up. I was there. I went through what they had and what they were talking about, but Thomas saw a really cool kayak. He wants to buy 3 of them, one for me, Geek, and himself.
I'm going to do another show about that. Come on. We're supposed to keep this to an hour, for God's sakes. Why are you setting me up like this?
I think he only needs to buy 1 because we can all fit in it.
It's insane. I just want to know when this stops. I had Brian on in the wintertime, and we were talking about the evolution of kayaking and how it's happening faster than the bass boat market. But everything bass boats have gone through, kayaks are doing it at warp speed.
Yes.
Torpedo was bought by Yamaha. It went from $3,000 to $20,000, all the electronics. And now when you look at KBF rules for what a kayak is, some of these things dude, you're going to have a cardiac arrest trying to paddle that bitch. It's a Bass Raider from Bass Pro Shop. What are we doing here? It's crazy.
Just buy an electric boat.
Yeah, I'll be the first to tell you that I'm all for putting a 250 on a 21-foot plastic boat because, man, I'm going to do 105. I'll get to that hole.
It'll be the past 10 minutes of your life.
Wow. All right, so ICAST 2024. Make sure you guys check out Thomas's page. Is that just pretty much YouTube, or where's everything going to kind of go up on Thomas? Because it's going to be. I don't upload till Thursday, so there's one more day after we upload.
It'll be live streamed to 3 different Facebook groups: Instagram and YouTube. Instagram and StreamYards and Twitter are a pain in the ass where I can't read comments live. You can do it there on Instagram all you want, but it won't let me share them. It'll be interesting. Humminbird allegedly has a new 360, which I'm pretty sure is just 3 transducers mounted to that thing, so it spins. I would love to see if that's real, not just a rumor. I'm interested to see what Best in Show is. I was talking to SB and Matt, and it's funny that the baits that usually win, they just suck. They're never that's the bait. What's that all about?
It's true.
Guys, you guys can correct us. You can correct me if you want, because I don't care. But everything that's won Best in Show for like the last couple of years has either went out of business,
Yeah.
or bankrupt, or might have gotten bought by a bigger company. Because, you kind of wonder about, I mean, guys, I went to ICAST 7 years ago, 8 years ago now. It's been a long time. I can't remember. And I got to vote and I got to check out a lot of stuff. And there was probably, that was the year that the bat came out by Spro. I think it was Spro Bat. And it was like that was the year that the little chicken came out. There was a bat and a chicken at the same time, like little yellow chicken bird, whatever. Yeah, they both came out at the same time. But I think like
spider.
Yeah, the spider. And I actually have one. I don't know why. And then
nobody knows why.
Nobody knows
Nobody
why.
that has one.
So I mean, yeah, there's very unique stuff, and hopefully we'll get you guys' opinions on what your thoughts are, because it's going to be a overload of content coming out in the next couple of weeks. By the way, guys, Missile Baits has a new product that has come out, and we might.
Bitch is huge.
Well, you talking about the jig?
We interviewed Cruz yesterday at the Lit Pond, and he pulled this thing up as like, are you punking us? Because there's no now.
He does have a plastic bait coming out as well.
They did put a swim bait on this thing that looked like you were trying to hit a tarpon. So I don't know if you would throw that on Smith, fishing. But it's just like, good Lord. Hey, maybe it works. It's an eye turner.
I have not seen anybody catch a fish on it yet, or haven't seen anybody tag anybody that's caught a fish on it yet. So, it might happen somewhere. I don't know. All right, let's move on. Carson Maddox, guys, is with us tonight. As you guys hopefully know, Carson wrote a story for us that did extremely well. We brought him on to be one of our writers for our newsletter. Again, guys, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, it will be in the show notes below, so you guys can subscribe so you can read his content. Carson, tell the world a little bit about who you are and what you do, man.
Yes, sir. Well, I'm Carson Maddox, as you said. I just graduated from Auburn University this past May. Just down here in Alabama, guiding a little bit, doing a lot of fishing and writing a couple articles, and I hope y'all reading them on the newsletter. And like Brian said, the newsletter is a good deal because it is kind of laid back. A guy like me can write the articles, so it's not too bad. Hoping you guys are reading them, and looking forward to seeing the stuff that comes out at ICAST. I got some ideas of some trends that we're definitely seeing right now that I'm excited to write about, that will be on my next article. So
boom, there you guys. You guys got a little insight about what's going to be in the next one in 2 weeks, guys. We pretty much I sent one out on Monday, and this Saturday I'll start working on the next one. So I mean that's how we do it. I mean we keep the ball rolling on this newsletter. But guys, so this week's newsletter, if you guys haven't read it, hopefully you have. Bruce wrote a great story about Major League Fishing coming up to the James River. We were all excited about it. Everybody was really, really excited about that until they made a decision. And the decision was that they could pretty much launch from pretty much anywhere they wanted to launch. And once that decision was made, it changed the whole entire aspect of the tournament, because it is a catch and release tournament. And a lot of the anglers didn't come back, and they didn't make the media appearances that they were supposed to do. And that's been one of the topics that I have voiced my opinion about, because I went down North Carolina and I covered that tournament as well. And a lot of the guys didn't come back. So, I mean, if you had a bad day, I'm just going to the house. But you kind of also, there were a lot of fans waiting on some of these anglers to show up as well. And I'm going to say the fan disconnect in Major League Fishing, on top of the rest of the issues they have, has been probably one of the biggest things that I've kind of voiced my opinion about, because that's what fishing's all about. I mean, that's, Bruce went down there to meet a lot of these anglers that, so from the angler aspect of it, fan aspect of it, some of these people might have traveled an hour to 2 hours away to meet their fan, their angler, and him not come back. Come on, people. I mean, that's what this, you catch and release already. So, I mean, that's what this whole thing's about. So go ahead, Tom.
Let me jump into this thing with 2 feet. So when you look at Major League Fishing and bass for the most part, a lot of this stuff is actually voted on by the anglers. So first off, everything I'm about to say is worth this part. Was this voted on? Was it the anglers that said they want this to be allowed? Because that changes it completely. With that said, it's if you're a business, are you about your customer or your employee? The way they have it structured, it's very employee based. Like they're telling the anglers, which in general, launching from any boat ramp is not necessarily a bad idea when you have storm issues. Like there's a lot of times Bassmaster could have done that to save a day. So we'll put that in a little box. It just feels like they're just saying, hey, listen, you can stay here at MLF and you don't have to go talk to people if you don't want to. It seems very much they're trying to cater to their elite anglers. Now, is that a negative for the fan base? 100%. I agree with that. Why are you, if you want them to launch from the ramp, that's fine. Why are you telling them that it's optional, that you don't have to go to media day?
I've been told it's not optional and they were supposed to be there, but they don't find them. They don't slap them on the hands. They just go, oh, well, he left.
That's the question then. So whose fault is that? Is that the organization or because you're dealing with celebrities? Because let's face it, DC, Jacob Wheeler, those guys, those are celebrities. Do you blame MLF at that point? Or are you telling Skeet Reese, what the hell are you doing? Your fans are here. You should have the impetus to go do this thing.
Well, maybe you even blame the sponsors. And then you wonder, and then some of those guys who don't show up, who aren't the DCs, wonder why they're not picking up sponsors the way maybe they feel like they should, because they're not doing their job. And
I like that.
As much as you want fishing to be you, if you Kyle Busch it and you have a bad day and you walk off and you don't do interviews, either the organization or the sponsor needs to adjust your attitude for you.
That's the one thing I really liked about Major League Fishing the first year of the BPT, where when you had your day off in between, you had these media days where you could hang out with the anglers more than if you was at a Bassmaster event. And again, I said this a bunch on my channel. So many great ideas on paper that just weren't executed great. But they're there. There's something there that they had. And how will they run out of money first, or will they figure out how to make the system work? That to me is the question.
You know, the NBA fines their players if they don't show up for media. I mean, that's and
NFL,
NFL, all of them. I mean, you're supposed to be available for at least 30 minutes, an hour after. I don't know all the rules. Don't quote me, guys. But it is true. They do fine. So, I mean, you're supposed to show up and be there for the media for at least 30 minutes to an hour. And like Geek said, the sponsors probably need to be the ones that really pull the rug on us, because, I know Major League Fishing, I know it's probably about 5 guys that are really chasing Major League Fishing right now. I know their websites, I know them. And, when we shouldn't have to run to chase you down, because they don't understand, after we chase you down and do a 4-minute clip, we still have 2 or 3 hours back at the room to upload all this content, put on the internet to promote the sponsor. But we've seen a lot of these deals here lately, and I'm not knocking it. They're pretty cool, but a lot of deals which are where these, I'm not sure if it's the angler or if it's the sponsor, is paying individuals to record this content. They don't really give a shit about the rest of us. And we noticed that. I mean, that was something we had a meeting about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was a big whole meeting with Major League Fishing. We're going to bring everybody back together. We're going to, let's sing Kumbaya together. Let's bring this whole thing back together. Well, we're back at the same spot now, 0.
Yeah, I think it definitely comes down, like you said, I know, with ICAST going on right now, I guarantee you that 80%, 90% of the guys there would rather be somewhere else. I mean, ICAST is fun, but when you after 3 days of working, you're there the entire time talking, and these are fishermen. They like being by themselves. They like being on the water. You're all cooped up together doing that. But that is your responsibility, and you are supposed to be there. That's part of your job. So that's kind of something that I've saw too, is, you have to, there's plenty of days that I've had tournaments that I want to just go curl up in a ball and go in my room and not talk to anyone, but you really do have to be there and talk to the people afterwards. And make it sucks, but it might motivate you a little more for the next one, not to have to do that again.
And you're right. It comes down to the sponsors and the contracts. Because, like, doing the Uno reverse card for the NBA and in the Major League Baseball and stuff, some of those guys don't have to do it because in their contracts, they make that much money. They don't care. Like, this is what they demand. Like,
Right.
Because they're prima donnas. Because I'm sorry, any athlete, whether it's fishing or baseball, you will have a prima donna complex. And it's like, all right, like this guy did run over 3 people in Vegas, but God, he can catch a football. So
Yeah.
we'll overlook it. And kind of exaggeration, but that has happened. And with that stated, if that's the case, that needs to be, the media needs to put that out there. Like, okay, angler A has in his contract that he can do this, or this is allowed, just so that way we understand a little bit more about what's going on.
Yeah, because I do know a lot of them with contracts, per sponsors, they'll only have to show up to X amount of media days throughout
Because
the
Geek,
year.
you've dealt with that. So you're
Yeah.
speaking right from Geek. I mean, Geek's dealt with that for the last couple of years.
So, that's that. I do know that it is in the contract that you only have to do, say, 4 of the 5, 3, or even 2 of the, however many. So
I think it's down to communication. Like, it's just so much of this stuff could be just fixed with good communication, which, again, I think this is what MLF is worst.
yeah,
They're bad at it in a weird way because Bass just doesn't talk, and they throw those people that would talk in the bottom of a river or in the back of a car. Whereas MLF talks, but they're not good at it. Like, everything they say is just wrong from a PR standpoint.
Yeah. So, the story, like I said, the story really was about the disconnect between Major League Fishing and the fans. And, they did really have a really cool fan experience. Had a couple of different sponsors there the final 2 days, and that was pretty cool. And I think the top 10 did have to come back for both days. The final day, they had set up a bunch of tables, and they did autographs for the first 30 minutes.
nice.
So that was probably their fan experience. But, I guess it gets back to where I might not like any of the top 10. You know what I'm saying? I might not be a fan of the top 10, and I really want to meet David Dudley, and I drove 3 hours to meet him, and he's already left. And, well, that sucks. I mean, I drove 3 hours to meet this guy that I really like, and he's nowhere around because he sucked. And that's, it's really going to have to be written in their contract where they have to return or they get fined. You got to be back here after the tournament. You got to stay for at least 30 minutes. And if you don't come back and we don't see you, it's a $5,000 fine. I mean, I know it's crazy.
Counter arguments of that. Like, I'm not, once you put a price tag on any of this stuff, like penalties, like that's a good idea. But then for the elite anglers, they're like, I'll just pay the fine. And I think that's like, you don't suspend them, but can you give them a weight penalty on the next
10
event?
pounds.
10, dang, dude. Wow. Oof, brutal.
All right, let's move on to the next story, guys. It's rethinking summertime bass fishing tournaments. And I just hit a button here, and let me see if I can So we brought up the topic about summertime bass fishing tournaments. And yes, guys, there are still tournaments. There are Bass Nation tournaments that goes on here that are during the summertime. We got one in August. We just had I don't want to blow names out, guys. We have a couple different of the big tournament series that have had tournaments within the last 2 months. And we're talking about 80 to 90 degree days. And the fish kill is just crazy. It really is. I mean, it's you kind of wonder, is there a time that we should say, like like they do up north? I mean, I know up north is because of a bunch of other stuff, but should we stop bass fishing tournaments a month after spawn?
So that let's stick to the main topic of summertime tournaments.
Okay.
Now in my area, a lot of people, most tournaments are held at night now. Most of your BFLs are over in the 1st of June. Your big regional tournaments are over. All your bass clubs are in my area, Northeast Tennessee, Southwest Virginia. they're all night tournaments. I wish they'd have some because I'd love to take some people's money during the daytime because that's the only time I fish because
Come
night
on now.
fishing does not translate on video. I don't care if you've got,
No.
I don't care if you've got night vision or whatever. The only thing I've seen that come anywhere close is at ICAST last year. I seen this awesome camera, but it only cost me about $5,000 to $10,000 to mount it on the boat.
Mm.
So that's out for me right now. But listen, I fished a lot, and the different species like smallmouth, they can't handle it. All right,
No.
Smallmouth can't handle warm
Mm-mm.
weather. That has to be catch and release. Smallmouth. Don't carry them around. Don't put them in your live well for 5 minutes. They are going to die. And I've had it happen. This is unfortunate for me that I've learned that the hard way. Largemouth, on the other hand, whether you're catching them up shallow, as long as you do things, as long as you understand. And I think that's the biggest problem, man. There's just a lot of people that just don't care. There's a lot of old heads around me that just don't care.
Yeah.
As long as they come in and that one flipper flips, that's 5 alive, baby. Send them down the line. And I think it really is more on the angler.
Yes.
And the angler understanding what proper fish care is
Yeah.
than it being summer tournaments. Guys don't know how to fish. Listen, I fished a volunteer division, and I'll call these tournaments out. I fished a volunteer division one year, and it was a year like this. It was extremely hot, extremely dry. Cherokee Lake. I bet there were 100 bass floating and 2 guys in boats out there fizzing bass and reviving bass because guys caught them deep. It was end of May, 1st of June, then went to Douglas, and the same exact thing was happening. Then a year later, I fished as a co-angler for the mountain division. We're on the Barren River. It's a deep crankbite. I come walking up to the tank. There stands 2 people. They're just netting them. There's an Amish guy in a tin boat collecting all the floaters out there. That's no joke. And so what are they doing? They're taking these fish, they're floating upside down, moving, and they're just dumping them in right down into the lake. There's fizz needles right there. I said, you need to fizz those fish. And they're like, nobody showed us how.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? So I sit there and literally teach these guys how to fizz these bass before they put them back in the lake.
Wow.
Yeah, that happens every tournament down here too. You weigh them in, and then even if they're very lively on weigh in, if they need to be fizzed, then they're not going to be able to release that after being in the live well for that long amount of time.
Yeah.
And they'll be lively, weigh them in on the scales, and then you let them go, and after that, everyone just kind of forgets about the fish even exist until the next week. But in reality, they're all just skidding across the top.
Thomas, what was it? I listened to your show. I listened to your show from the other night. What was that? He said is the percentage that the gentleman that you had on when you guys were talking about the rules and the new changes in Maryland. What was it? I think he said like 25% of the fish actually live or something like that after they're released or something. It was. I listened to it the other night coming home. It was kind of late, but I do remember.
So I'm going to try to keep, because this is something that we've talked about a lot. So for the people that are new to listening, I'm also on the Black Bass Advisory Board for Maryland. We talk about laws and regulation for Maryland, the Potomac River, all this stuff. This is a heated thing. I don't want to spend an hour. I'm trying to condense all this down. There's a slippery slope mentality here that you must understand when we're talking about this, because Pennsylvania has already done something. We're like, listen, the spawn's important. Don't you like fish? So all we're going to do is we're going to say you're not allowed to bass fish from March until June because of the spawn. Don't you like them? Okay, cool. We're going to ban that. Then a couple of years ago, like, okay, listen, the water's too hot. And as soon as it's too hot, we might kill a fish. And so you don't want that. Let's ban that. Now you can't have fishing tournaments for half the damn year.
Mm-hmm.
What is the goal? Is the goal zero fish mortality? If it's the case, then you have to ban recreational fishing. Now, with that said, Occoquan Reservoir, which I've mentioned before, they have 2 tournaments every month from March until September. Occoquan Reservoir is about 2,000 acres. It takes close to 40 pounds in the spring to cash a check.
Wow.
It is the best lake there is. It is electric motor only. It's insane. You have 2 major colleges, George Mason University there, that uses this thing for their stupid little rowboat things. And they hate this club. They hate it to death. They have to pay a massive premium just to have the tournament there to do this because they just want this thing to be a pristine little paddleboat place. And they gave these people so much shit that if they see dead fish, they might revoke their license and come out. They have almost 0 dead fish every year. 0 dead fish, even though they have 2 tournaments per month all the way through September. Why? Because those anglers are terrified that if they have 30 floaters, they might not be able to fish the lake anymore.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so they do a great job of making sure all these fish go back healthy. So it's really just to kind of clarify what Bass Geek was saying. It's the anglers. People don't take pride, I think, a lot of times in fish care. And it's a cultural thing and it's a personal thing. And I don't necessarily like when we wave the gun of big government coming in because they're a hammer looking for a nail. And if you bitch about this stuff, you're not going to like what they do. And I 100% agree with these old heads. Like you got to think about, take the ice, get some blue goo in there. If it's super hot and you're fishing on the Susquehanna and it's 100 degrees for smallmouth, don't put that thing in a metal box. Put that thing back. Like we can fix this ourselves. So, big brother government doesn't have to get involved.
Yeah.
Boom. There you go. Guys, if you don't know already, the basscast.com is sponsoring the Liberty University fishing team this weekend. They're putting on some events for the rest of pretty much the next 3 months. It's a Sunday morning event from 6 to noon, 3 fish limit, Smith Mountain Lake. And the basscast.com is sponsoring that. I'm kind of pro the 3 fish. Plenty of room in the live well. They're not beating each other up on top of that. And I like being off the water by noon because that's about, I'll be honest, I sit outside during the day at work and you're good till about 12:30, 1 o'clock maybe. And then after that, it's like hot. So I'm down with what they're doing. But 6 to 12, Smith Mountain Lake, Oak Grove Ramp. It kicks off this weekend and I will be there. So looking forward to seeing everybody there. But yeah, I'm pro 3 fish and I'm pro that. They are and will be the only tournament going on right now. I don't pick up again till October, and a lot of other tournaments don't pick up again around here till October, except for what you guys were talking about, the night tournaments. And they usually run here about 8 to 2 or some crazy number like that. So it's
yeah, it's just proper fish. I mean, I get back to this again. I mean, you look at the live well size is a great thing. Like a lot of these John boat tournaments, this will be another episode I want to do. They don't have live wells necessarily in their John boats. So what they do is they buy Yeti 50-gallon coolers that you could probably put the body of a midget in to dispose of it. Honestly, they're massive, and they don't have the same issues with fish mortality because it's just one massive tub in the bottom of their boat. My old Ranger, it was made during the Cold War. I think it was a 2000. It's got a small ass, segregated live well where if you put 18 pounds in there in the summertime, man, those babies get cooked up in there. And I don't know. It's interesting because I complain about the icon thing, but they are onto something there with the fish care of, is there a way we could actually measure the temperature of the water and take it down there versus ice? That's interesting. Don't know if I want a $200,000 boat to go with it, but could I get that system put in an older boat? And maybe that's what becomes mandatory. We adjusted fish calls. I remember go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you were talking about live wells. It was pretty cool when I first noticed a lot of the live wells. Instead of making 2, they still had the 2 doors, but they were putting a screen between them. Yeah, Geek was saying, and to keep both water temperatures about the same, and to help balance that heat out instead of having 2 different that were cooking.
See, I think the best way to keep fish alive, and down here in southern Alabama, it gets really hot. The water temperatures well into the 90s all summer long. I put all my fish, regardless of how much weight I have, I keep them in one side of the live well, and I've done well with fish care in the past because I do take pride in it. But I'll bring a cooler, and the best thing to do is to actually, when it's this hot, you need to
I know
chill.
where you're going.
You need to chill your live wells overnight before you get
Yeah.
there. So you need to put a bag of ice in there, but overnight, and then have a cooler full of ice. And you know, a typical tournament, I'll go through 4 to 5 bags, you know, 7-pound bags in a tournament, and I just continually put it in there and then keep it on recirculate all day. And that's the best way to regulate the water temperature. Unless you have some crazy icon system like that, but just a normal thing. The best thing is just to have that. And you know, a lot of people like freezing water bottles and stuff like that, and they say that helps them. They'll even like freeze a pre-made solution of G juice. I've never done that, but I'm sure it does work.
I've never done the G juice. Now it's pretty common. We use, you know, we'll have 2 or 3 small Gatorade bottles, and you'll just kind of put them in there throughout the day and swap them out. And you know, and another key is, you know, make sure you're recertain. Do not pump in fresh water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
And,
Ruin
and
anything.
keep that aerator system running as you know, almost all day if you can. You want to keep that oxygen being pumped in. And there's a great company. Actually, I discovered at ICAST last year, Fish Lung, which makes a product. It ain't cheap, but it's a very, very interesting system. You guys should all go check out.
And I think what's important here, just to do the super nerdy thing that we talked about on the Black Bass Advisory Commission, it's not the temperature that kills them as it cooks it. It actually pulls oxygen out of the water.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand that. Why are you cooling the water? It's to actually inject more oxygen into the water itself. And that's where I've even seen like there's oxygenating systems you can that force it in. That's why they do that, is when it gets cooking like that, you're almost suffocating the fish before you boil them to death.
Yeah.
And I don't know from a scientific aspect how well it works, but I know, who is it, TH Marine or somebody has the vents, the live well vents, to be able to let air out.
All
and
that
then as
heat
you're
out,
going down the road, or going down the road, do not take your bass boat down the road. If you're going down the lake, it you know, it's built to where, you know, it pushes some air in too. So that can't be a bad thing. You know, as long as you don't mind drilling holes in your live well doors.
Carson, you want to wrap us up? I see you got something talking about that on this topic.
Yeah, I was just going to say that as far as this topic goes, I mean, even we all love to fish tournaments, but if you're not fishing a tournament, I do also I try not to keep them in the live well for a picture, even if I can. I'd rather just take a picture right when I catch it, just to limit it. Just because if we're doing that days a week, you know, the amount of people that are fishing that much nowadays, is better.
And I think this is where you see more states like Maryland. Pennsylvania has already embraced catch weigh release or catch photo release. Maryland is dabbling with it. You can't stop this. It's coming in some regard. And I think in the summertime, that will probably end up being our middle ground, is the state will be like, we'll ban it. But it's like, well, what if we do some kind of catch weigh release system for the hot summer events? Because, I mean, you have less fish mortality if it never goes for a ride in your boat. Do I like that? I don't know. Do I think it's the future? I think that's where we're headed with technology and stuff, sadly, for better or worse.
But I am going to play devil's advocate here, because I have helped with, you know, pond management. There's a reason why we don't just do catch weigh release on every single lake when it comes to bass. And it's because most of the time you are not going to create a good fishery by not harvesting bass. And there's even with catch weigh release, I think the average based on the temperature, even with catching and release, I think it is still a 35% mortality depending on the temperature. Above 70 or 75, it raises slightly.
Right.
So
you're right. The problem is you're educated in this, and the perception is reality. So how this will work, because I live on a tidal body of water. You fish a ton of tournaments in the summertime compared to places, because we didn't even talk about boat traffic being an issue at like a Lake Anna, Smith Mountain Lake, where you can't, because you throw your crankbait out there, you're going to hit 2 people on a Sea-Doo. Like it's a problem in the summertime.
That's okay.
But on the Potomac, we have a bunch of tournaments, and I know something that the president, of the department says, like, there was a lot of flowers and 2 women started to email us and complain about it.
Yeah.
You can't, there's 2 parts there. Yes, the mortality rate from fishing tournaments and the death toll is not going to affect the population. That is correct. But then you have to fight this PR nightmare of you seeing so many dead fish. And so where does that end up? And I think what the best situation is and the worst, that's where we're going to have that fight going on.
Yeah.
Take them home and grill them, man. Because I heard bass is pretty good, but I've never had one. But take it home and grill it. Just let's do it that way and keep it going. Let's move on. Let's talk to Mr. Maddox up there, man. Trey McKinney. I was guys. You guys listened to some of the older episodes of Basscast Radio. We talked about the youth anglers coming up, and it's been a fucking shit show since it came up. But hopefully we'll get this whole thing leveled out here. But talk about the story you wrote, and we'll dive into that for the last few minutes here.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows. I mean, Trey McKinney is an awesome angler. He's, rookie on the Elite Series, already won a tournament, was leading AOY, and was poised to maybe even win another tournament. But, he was disqualified. If you haven't read, he was disqualified for answering a phone call during the event from a family member. And because he was late for check-in because he thought that he was supposed to be there at a different time is what I read. But basically I just wrote this story just to kind of break it down. He's been in kind of a lot of controversy recently. The more you look at it, it seems like his name continues to pop up. And I feel like that raises a lot of red flags, especially if you don't know too much about it and you just are just reading the headlines. It's just every week. It's like, man, what is this guy doing? So I really just kind of wanted to highlight that and just what he'd done, and just the fact that he's 19 years old and he's always in the headlines. It's like, how much of this is just a young guy that's, making pretty simple mistakes, but because he's done so well, that it's just highlighted in a much bigger aspect than just someone. Imagine a guy finishes 53rd in a tournament, middle of the pack, and he answers the phone, just a simple mistake, and Sales Parts gets DQ'd. It's not going to make a big deal like that. And that's something I wanted to bring up is just, yes, he's been the center of attention, and he's kind of done it to himself on both aspects. 1, because he's been successful, and 2, because he kind of has been, playing in that gray area recently. So that's just, it's definitely a lot of conversations to be had about that. And so I wanted to kind of see what everyone else was thinking on that matter.
Yeah, we so we heard about that issue, and then we heard the story, which I don't know if this is true. So I'm going to clear my name right now on that. But of them putting trees in the lake,
during the event,
like during practice.
Oh, during practice.
Yeah,
okay,
they
cool.
were. I saw an article, and I'm not sure, it could have been fabricated, but I did see a picture of the Bass Weekly that they send to all the Elite Series anglers, and him and JT Tompkins were issued just a
Warning.
like a warning. They didn't do anything because during the pre-practice for that event, before the 28-day off limit period, they cut down live trees, which was technically legal, or it was within the rules, but because TVA does not allow it, that's why it was.
Oh.
Well, I mean, look, when it comes to that, I mean, listen, as I have stated before, if I told you that I didn't go out and practice during a tournament and then relocate fish to some of my favorite holes, I would be lying. There's no rule against it. It's called defense.
I'm more curious, would fish actually set up on a tree you just dropped 3 days ago?
Yeah.
But it would have been a month, but yes.
A month. Okay.
Yeah.
But they definitely do during a lot of time.
And then, then we had the issue with him and Gerald Swindle.
Well,
that was the first one, that little spat that they had.
First things first, let's look at the age. And he's 19-year-old. And he's made more money than all of us probably this year.
Plus, his
Together.
parents are stupid rich.
So,
But
you know, we're talking about a sport where up until a few years ago, when you know the college funnel really started to work, that we're used to seeing guys make it to the elites on average age, what, 35? Would we say
Right.
that's right? 32.
Mhm.
There were a few younger, but most guys had to go out and build some sort of job that they could then go fish full time, so
Yeah,
that then they
yeah.
could make it to the professional level, because of how expensive the sport is. But we see this. I mean, look at what we see in the NFL. Look at what we see in any pro sport with 19-year-old kids. I mean, they're 19-year-old kids. I mean, I don't want to tell you because I don't know if the statute of limitations have run out on all the crap I did when I was 19.
Well, I think the youngest guy in recent memory in any sport, Brian, you can help me out this, was Bryce Harper. You know,
Yeah.
boy in my
Oh, yeah,
backyard.
yeah. Yep.
I mean,
Yep.
he could barely, I don't think he could like buy a beer. And he
No.
signed the biggest contract at the time in Major League history. And
Yeah.
he was a freaking baby. And there were people that were throwing at him. And he was cocky as shit because, yeah. I mean, look what he did. And you have that factor there. You have the other factor that, if I'm not mistaken, his parents are extremely well off. And so that helped bake to the mindset of the cockiness. And then he's also talented, which also helps bake into this. And it's not a good thing when you put them all together to have this person, but the thing, he's backing it up. But all the old guard, it just makes you that much more pissed at him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's happening now. I mean, you know, with this Trey McKinney deal right here, is the old guard is pissed, and the fans are kind of pissed. I mean, just like Geek said a little while ago, his parents got a crap load of money, and all I keep hearing is rich kid, rich kid, rich kid. He can break all the rules because daddy would pay the bills. And then, you know, it makes it, and I hate to say it, it really does put a little blemish on the sport again.
But-
and not as bad, but just a little bit. I mean, go ahead, Thomas.
That's the sport's fault for basically now making it to where it's only rich kids that can play ball.
Bam.
That's true. It's
I
the only
mean-
sport where you have to be rich to get in. You don't
Yeah.
get rich after you're there.
Yeah.
Because
And that's
yeah.
you know, now most kids playing major sports get rich in college, but the traditional model has been you make $1 million once you're a pro. And you better have a couple of million if you want to be a pro in this.
When I founded the college club at Shenandoah University, it was just me and my brother. We used a credit card just to bill everything. On our way to the first one, this was when FLW had at the time. It was on the Chesapeake Bay. We got a call that we had to have jerseys, so we pulled into a Walmart, got 2 long sleeve shirts, and just sharpied SU on it and put the pins. And you show up and you have Penn State all decked out. They have the sponsors. They have all the glamour. That's what you're teaching the next generation. And now it's into high school that they're going to do this. And you're baking into their mind, you're getting them hooked on this drug, but then from the corporate mindset, they're cheap. You know, McKinney is still cheaper than a Gerald Swindle demands.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing that people don't want to hear about is if you are a corporation, you want to hook into a 17-year-old kid because you can get them to a sweet contract deal that's not expensive. And if they end up really knocking it out of the park, you could probably get them way cheaper.
Yeah, no doubt.
I like that 100% what you just said right there. And that is true. And, you know, we see that in the NFL, we see it in other sports. But, you know, especially now, this generation coming up right here, social media. I mean, all of them on all their phones. I mean, Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. And that, you know, the guys over 50 years old don't want to have anything to do with it. I mean, and like you said, if I can pick someone up for, you know, if I can pay for 2 of Trey McKinney's tournaments and, you know, he produces in the social media side as well, I mean, it's a steal. I mean,
it is a steal.
I mean, we talked about it a week ago, you know, how big now influencers are in the world of marketing. And then we're going to have, that's a whole nother show, but we're going to go and deal into that where a lot of the older guys are going to be pushed out. The new kids the crop keeps coming in, the 10 keep coming in to Bass, and the older generation is pushed out. It's going to be, you know, it's a social media grab. It's going to be who has the biggest social media presence on top of a little bit of flair to go with it. And if you got both of those, they don't really care because I mean, look at shit, what's his name? Look at the dude from Ugly Stick. I mean, what's it? Geek? The one
Matt
that,
Robertson.
Matt Robertson, yeah.
Matt Robertson, yeah.
I mean,
just kept seeing
he's got a trailer sitting up on the side of a mountain, a trailer, and he just had a pool put in last year, and I think a bunch of boys helped him put a pool in. But because he is promotable and, you know, promotable to all different generations of life, the dude's, you know, as long as he stays in it and he behaves for the most part, he's got a career. I mean, he really does. And he got to really produce. And, you know, I don't want to, God, I want to say something, but I don't want to say something because I want to call out another angler that's done pretty much the whole same thing in his career.
But didn't we have this same conversation about another angler? Probably the one you're talking about. And he's probably one of, if not the most well-known anglers in the world.
Yes.
Mike Iaconelli.
Yeah.
And, you know, look, let's face it. Mike's done well. He had a good career. But did he have Kevin Van Dam sort of career? I mean,
No.
How much did he really win? How much did he really, you know, he won. Hey, bro, I mean, listen,
Yeah.
he won, you know, the
If
biggest
it wasn't
tournament in
if
the
it wasn't
world.
for TV, we wouldn't really know who he is.
But
This
and
generation.
to me, you know, we need Matt Robertson because they're marketable. Those guys are marketable.
Yeah.
Those
And
are going to bring the dollars in.
I will still, and this is an opinion people don't like. I blame YouTube for this because it really, not to get down the rabbit hole of all this, but they don't pay creators very well for the bang for their buck, and they used to. And even if they gave back just a little bit of that, there wouldn't be this hunger and this fight for every sponsorship dollar to where, you know, if you have 100,000, 50,000 subscribers, you're not rolling in dough and you're still fighting Skeeter boats for this deal. But if you get these guys with these decent followings where they're like, yeah, you know what, screw that offer you're making me, I'm fine. It gives a little bit power back to the anglers when you basically are a TV show. And this is what the thing is so funny is if Bass Geek goes to Kerr Lake and do something, he will get shit for it. But if Hank Parker does something on ESPN, well, that's fine, even though it's the exact same thing. They're both TV shows. It's just a different TV show for a different generation.
Right.
But yet the marketing dollars never followed, which doesn't make sense to me. But that's a whole other bag of worms.
They've started flowing, and it really has. You know, I noticed something the classic, I think last year, the year before last, that boy that's started that YouTube young man who has started a whole line of lure rods and reels. And he was there, and you know that was he's probably the only, I can't remember the dude's name. He's like 19, 18. I mean, but he's probably the only kid that I've actually seen who has taken on that role where he's produced his own line. Luz did pick him up, and they came out with another line under the Luz brand. But was it that? Is it like a green and black rod or something like that? Look like Bass Cast. What is it?
And at the Mock, are you talking about the Mock brand?
Yeah, I think it's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean that that he's probably the only one that I know has really broke out and been able to, duplicate and multiply on that. And yeah, I mean, they're one of my sponsors. You had one of the two young men you had on the show on Monday Night Live. Thomas, one of them is sponsored by English Choice, and he got a boat and
SB Fishing, and they love that YouTube side of it because they are trying to hit the young anglers. I mean, that hopefully one day we'll have enough money to buy a $1 million bass boat. Yeah, and that's like, again, this gets me fired up. It's just, what is an acceptable following? And right now, because of the TikTok stuff, we are so Looney Tune in what numbers are.
Yeah.
No one knows 500 million people, but unless you get 500 million views, which is not even quantifiable, it's like that doesn't matter. But in SB Fishing, who doesn't love that son of a bitch? Like, everyone loves him. He has a great cult following.
Yes.
And he has enough people where if he was just a mom and pop business, he'd be doing really well with his following. But it doesn't live up to these corporate Gillette razors analytics of, are you pulling Super Bowl numbers? It's just, it's such a crazy world we live in, man. It really is.
All right, we're gonna wrap this bad boy up. But yeah, so as he said, SB Fishing. Make sure you guys follow him. He's a great guy, and I got to meet him like a year ago or 2 years ago at a tournament down at Bugs Island, and the guy's just genuine as all get out. He doesn't say a whole lot, but he loves to fish, and hopefully a great career in front of him. If not, he's got a great following YouTube. I know he's over 100,000. I know he's well over 100,000 on the follower base, but yeah, congratulations to him on that. And Geek's going to be there by the end of the year, guys. So make sure you head on over and follow Geek. And guys, let's get Thomas. Thomas needs two
more people. If there's 2 more people in the United States of America that would like to pay $6 a month, so we can make this next thing happen, that'd be amazing. Please and thank you. Just steal your parents' credit card.
Me and Geek are just gonna have to sign up for it, so we get the invite to the pot.
Yeah, the party will be legendary.
To the party. But guys, want to appreciate all you guys listening tonight. Like I said earlier, if you haven't subscribed to our newsletter, please make sure you do so. On the Line. It's a bi-weekly newsletter. We try to pack it full. I got games in there I found. I wouldn't try to make this look as close to a real newsletter as possible, but keep it bass fishing related. And in this newsletter, we cover stories that you're not going to read anywhere else. On top of that, a lot of them are some tips, some opinionated stories. And, hey, sometimes you got to not be happy. Sorry. I mean, but we're not here to piss anybody off, but we're here to make you think a little bit. And think
probably
about
why I don't have 100,000 yet is because I really don't care.
and we want you guys to think about what's going on in the world of bass fishing. And I this is a prime example. I posted a story the other night. A lot of you guys went well over it, but I said, is Patrick Walters the new KVD? And Patrick still has about 20 more years to go till he catches up to KVD. So he's still got a lot of time. But then everybody starts throwing in the live scope and throwing in this, then throwing in that, and what he could have done. But Walters can turn chicken shit into chicken salad. And he is the best at it. He is the freaking, I'm going to die on this right now. He is the best of that right now, of being able to do that as an angler. I mean, he's got 4 NPFL trophies to show for that. On top of that, plus his wins in the Elite Series.
Yep.
And his
time, 3? Is it 3?
Yeah, 3 century belts.
Yeah,
the 100 century belts. So I mean,
he's won a couple of opens too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And he's won open. So I mean, his time is going to come where, I don't know. I won't put him on. He's gonna hold up that main trophy. He's gonna be a
hot take for me, because I was literally on my group chat. We were doing this when they were at Smith Lake. The next angler is gonna be the next Kevin Van Dam is gonna be from Japan. If you're just talking about a one series, I think Patrick Walters, because he fishes multiple series, where the guys that were under contract in Japan, they basically go to the elites. That's all they want them to fish. When you look at if you take all their tournaments and you divide out like weight per tournament, it's insane how good they are. I'm just talking about just the elites, that these guys you've never heard of get dropped over here, and they are averaging stupid weights per tournament, and then they're winning multiple blue trophies. You can, if you're doing Bass Fantasy next year, guys, just bet on every person from Japan and you will finish in the top tier of your league, period. It's just insane how consistent they are.
They're good.
They're bringing over the Japanese bites.
Yeah.
Is that it's Trey McKinney, because that'll just piss everybody off.
So yes.
All right.
Wrong though,
guys. We really appreciate everybody listening tonight. Another great episode of Basscast Radio here. Before we leave, always make sure you head on over, follow Bass Geek, follow his channel. We really do want to get this dude to 100,000. I don't see why we can't. And like I said earlier, Thomas is only 2 Patreons away, and I am 3 Patreons in. So thank you guys for following and Patreon. Joining our Patreon. That link will be in the description as well. So really appreciate that. Now, if the other 2 could pay, that'd be even better. But that's beside the point. So, but I really appreciate you guys being a part of our Patreon here as well. Because my goal with our Patreon, and I've told you guys this in the past, if I can get 25 members, that's all it's going to take, I will go ad free. That's what we're posting. That's where we've been up. I will cut the ads off completely, and you will hear nothing but Basscast Radio. But until then, a little bit of money helps because it's not free. And when it's not free, we got to have a gentleman's agreement. You got to hit the share button. Share button on the show, share button on the video on Basscast Radio. You can watch it on YouTube as well. So hit the share button and share us with your followers. So hopefully our goal is to monetize on YouTube like Geek and everybody else says. And we reach that level so we can make a few extra dollars on top of the show. We love doing the show, by the way. And we make zero. We love it. And I ain't gonna lie, you guys, I don't make a damn thing on this thing. We just love doing it, and we love talking about bass fishing. We love discussing it. So appreciate everybody watching and listening. Anybody got anything to say before we wrap up?
No money, no honey. I
Damn.
don't know. That's what I'm saying.
Make sure the check clears.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We will see you all next week. I will tell you, we have a guest already lined up. We're going to be talking about ICAST 2024, plus some other stuff going on. And I'll give you guys a little hint real quick. He's the tournament director for BAM, Bass Angler Magazine out west. And we're going to have him on, and we're going to talk about what they got going on out there. And, the guys out west are all shook up, but I think he's calming the nerves down after what happened. What is that, guys? Like 2 years ago when all that crap folded out there, the Wild Wild West series and everything else that kind of went to poop. So I think the West is on track to come back. So have a great night. Carson, man, anywhere you want anybody to follow you, the journey?
Yeah, just check me out on Instagram. That's pretty much all I'm on right now. It's just CJ Maddox 17. So
All right, guys. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all next week right here on Basscast Radio.
Bye.